Thank you, Eric. So if you were looking at that price chart that Chris put up on Great Bear and looked at that go from 20 cents to $8 and sort of said to yourself, man, I wish I had a chance to buy that at 20 cents, perhaps we've got another opportunity here for you. Boy, I should have put this slide up before I just made that statement. This is a forward-looking statement. So we are a strategic land position in the Dominican Republic. We, as Eric pointed out, we basically surround one of the largest existing gold mining operations in the world, and that's Barrick's Pueblo Viejo mine in the DR. I'm going to largely focus this presentation on our newly announced drill targets, but I'll give a little bit of the background on the company and how we got there. This is our share structure. We've got 82 million shares out, 88 fully diluted. There are no existing warrants or outstanding warrants on the company currently. Market cap's a little under $10 million. We've got a couple of sizable shareholders in a company locally here called Strategic Metals, which is a very well-regarded exploration team. Founders, insiders with a little over 10%, and a couple of institutional holders with a little under 10 as well. So relatively tight share structure, considering the amount that's out. Again, going back to people, as has been touched on here before, I think we've got a very well-experienced team, focused largely on geology. Adrian Fleming is our chairman. Adrian was part of a number of recent buyouts, including Underworld several years ago, Northern Empire more recently. Quinn Henning is a PhD geologist who's running Novo Resources that a couple of years ago went from 60 cents a share to over $1 billion market cap. Alistair Waddell is a geologist. Alistair was a founder and former CEO of a company called GoldQuest that was focused and is focused in the Dominican Republic, our jurisdiction, for a long time. So we've got a very good technical team combined with capital markets experience as well. Again, if you're going to be in a foreign jurisdiction, it's important to have strategic people. One of our advisors at the top here is the former president and CEO and executive director of Barrick's Pueblo Viejo mining operation. He worked there for 11 years, and so being connected with someone who knows the community relations, the business, the politics is, of course, very, very helpful. Our focal point here is in the central part of the country. We have other assets in other parts of the Dominican Republic, including ground adjacent to GoldQuest Romero deposit. But our focal point is in the central part of the country where there's much more mining activity. We're within 10 kilometers of 3 existing mining operations, including Barrick's Pueblo Viejo. Good infrastructure, power, roads, all that kind of thing. And of course, from a permitting standpoint, this is an active mining district, and so permitting, community relations, community understanding is quite good. This is a look, if you don't know what Pueblo Viejo looks like, this is a photograph of Barrick's operation there. This is almost a city unto itself. Current resource there is about 13 million ounces of gold, 75 million ounces of silver, and nearly 300 million pounds of copper. They produce about 1 million ounces a year at an all-in sustaining cost of a little over $600 US. There's a $4.3 billion investment into this project, and Mr. Bristow, the CEO at Barrick, just recently announced a proposed additional $1 billion investment into this project. So this is a Tier 1 asset for Barrick, and this is one of the single largest economic drivers in the country. So it's important, mining in this area is important, and we're situated right up against their claim boundaries on 3 sides. This is a look at our land position in the central part of the country. In yellow is Precipitate. In the central part there, you can see Barrick's Pueblo Viejo. There are a number of areas here of interest, some prior drilling, some greenfields exploration, but our focus is going to be on the area west of Barrick's Pueblo Viejo pits. An area there that's relatively underexplored, but for us, sort of screamed exploration potential, and so that's where much of what I'll focus on here we'll talk to. You can see here from an airborne mag survey, there's a number of different anomalies throughout the property package, but again, the most notable here is that area immediately west of Barrick's pits, and again, that's going to be sort of our focal point as we go through the presentation here. What I'll also ask you to look at is, as we go through this, there's also an area on Barrick's ground, just sort of to the southwest of their pit, where they've recently announced a new exploration target on their ground. So there is sort of this trending movement to the west of the existing pits that ties in very nicely with our thesis as well. So this kind of hones in on that area. You can see there that the dashed outline of Barrick's mining pit. What we've done here is we had this big broad area. It's about 3.5 kilometers from the pit to the other side of our concession boundary. So a large area for us to try to vector in on how do we want to tackle this. So we started out, we did multiple layers of work over the course of the last couple of months in trying to get this to a drill stage. And this is geochem. We went in here, we did soil sampling on 50 by 50 meter spacings. A number of multi-element anomalies have arisen here, as you can see. We've outlined them. What's important here, too, is that they're also sort of tend to be trending in this northwest, southeast direction. That ties in very nicely with structure and also some of the existing sort of higher grade zones within Barrick's Pueblo Viejo also trend in that same sort of regional trending direction. We then went in and said, okay, we've got some geochem, we've got some surface anomalies, but let's get this better mapped. And so we went in there with a very detailed mapping crew, came back, and what you pull from this map is in yellow there, these are zones of silica. And so, you know, silica is of course, sort of associated with epithermal style mineralization. Barrick's Pueblo Viejo is a high sulfidation epithermal system. So again, this correlates nicely. Again, these yellow areas tend to be situated on those black dashed lines, which are ridges, topographic highs, lineaments, and again, that again talks to structure and sort of ties in very nicely with the geochem. Now you're seeing the silica. And so we went in there and said, okay, let's do a more detailed ground magnetics over this and see what sort of lights up from that survey. And so again, we did tight spacing, tight lines here. We've got deep penetrating ground mag, and as you can see here, it's these mag lows, which are the blue on the screen. That we project as, again, situated sort of along some of these structural or lineament trends in the northwest direction. And most of these areas, as you can see here, there are some historic drill holes there, the little white drill traces you can see, but most of the significant areas for us have not yet been tested. So we compiled all that data. That's been something the market's been sort of anticipating here for the last several months. When are you going to drill? When are you going to drill? When are you going to drill? But we've been, focused on getting this work accomplished, getting all of this data available to us and then putting it into a compilation and looking at what this might look like in terms of how we best drill this. We combined all that data and have come up with 8 distinct drill targets within this zone. And again, this is a relatively small area within a larger 12,000 hectare property package that has other similar affinities. But for us, this is kind of the lowest hanging fruit. And when we combine the geochem with the mapping and the geophysics, we've now identified 8 distinct drill targets. The larger stars on here are the areas with the highest priority for us, and there are 5 of them. And these are areas where we see the greatest affinities to potential high sulfidation epithermal targets. Those targets, of course, translate into relatively shallow near surface targets. We're talking 200, 250 meter depth, something like that. Some of the secondary targets are looking like they may have some porphyry sort of affinities, and so there may be some deeper, perhaps richer targets to be tested at depth. But as a 8 million market cap company with a limited treasury, we think the best use of our time and effort and investor proceeds is to go after the lowest hanging fruit, which would be these lower targets. Because of the topography, because of the access and infrastructure that's already in place here, getting in and getting a drill program underway is relatively simple. There's an incredible amount of infrastructure and dirt roads throughout the property package. And the other big question that's sort of being asked, and I'm happy to answer in the Q&A after, is with respect to permits. We initiated our drill permitting process knowing that we were going to delineate some targets here several months ago. We're very, very close, I would say, potentially within weeks here of having the official paperwork in hand to actually ramp up and get going on a drill plan. So going over everything in summary here, we're looking at a high sulfidation epithermal target that would be, analogous to what's next door. We've got a large target area here that has never been tested. We've delineated 8 new targets, 5 of the high priority style high sulfidation epithermal, and multiple target areas throughout the remainder of the property package that I really didn't touch on here today for the sake of time, that we'll also be sending crews out into the field to commence some early stage sampling and prospecting work to try to delineate additional targets for future work down the road. So with that, that's my time, and I'm happy to answer questions in the Q&A and be here all day today and tomorrow. Thank you.